What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Hoops All In. If you guys are new, make sure to check us out on our social media at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In on YouTube. Don't forget to check us out on our podcast, on our audio podcast. If for those who like to listen to the audio version, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, Podbean. Don't forget to check out Keith's personal YouTube channel as well at Keith8AI. He does good work over there. Yeah, so subscribe, like, and comment, share this video to everybody, your friends, family, loved ones, significant other. Appreciate the love and support that you guys continue to give us year round. So yeah, we are well into the NBA finals. Came to just wrapped up Sunday. Game one was more, eventful. The game two was pretty much semi a blowout. But let's talk about game one most for the most part. Obviously, again, looked like a blowout as well, but the Indiana Pacers went into their voodoo black magic halftime. You had Tyrese Halliburton doing Halliburton things. He hit another game-winning clutch basket for the Indiana Pacers to win 111 to 110. The minute that ball touched Tyrese Halliburton, myself as well as many other NBA fans knew, okay, this is over. He's going to win the game. And he has done this multiple times throughout the postseason, and this is what he's becoming known for. He's becoming, without a shadow of a doubt, the most clutchest player in the NBA. And you texted me, you said Jalen Brunson should give up his clutch player award of the year and give it to Tyrese Halliburton. The NBA should force him to give up his most clutch player of the award of the year and give it to Tyrese Halliburton. This man has just been straight balling. When it's clutch moments, he has risen to the occasion. And
Mm-hmm.
I said it before on my own personal TikTok. Tyrese Halliburton is a superstar because why? A, you make your name in the playoffs where you're seen by millions upon millions of people on a national TV basis. We have NBA media networks that were pushing Anthony Edwards as the next face of the league. Yeah, he hasn't even made the NBA finals. We had the same network that's covering the finals. We're saying that Victor Wembanyama at 19, 20 years old is going to be the next face of the league. Yeah, he hasn't even played in one playoff game. This guy, Tyrese Halliburton, has led his team to an NBA Finals at age 24, 25. So, what are the criteria that it needs to take to you for you to be an NBA superstar? You can't say, "Oh, well, Tyrese Halliburton's in a small market." So is SGA. So is Jokic. So is Ant Man. So is Victor Wembanyama. So all those guys in small markets, yet you got ESPN all of a sudden just trying to self-proclaim those guys as the next superstars, as the next face of franchise, yet they haven't accomplished little to anything in the postseason where it matters the most. This guy has. And so it's about time we have to give Tyrese Halliburton the respect, the credit that he deserves. He is a legit superstar and he has arrived. But yeah, game one, game down to the wire, he showed up. Game two, he didn't show up not so much. Had a quiet night. I believe he had like 17 or something like that points. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
play that well. It was a blowout for the most part. Shade had a spectacular performance, showing why he was the MVP this year. So they got to make some adjustments going into game three. Obviously, you can't get that little production with Tyrese Halliburton. Siakam, is going to be up and down. I like to see Miles Turner involved in more pick and roll actions. But what were your overall thoughts about game one, which is more, eventful the game two?
I mean, this was really OKC's game to win. I mean, we know what happened, especially in the first half with the turnovers, right? 19 turnovers forced in the first half. They ended forcing 24. So Indiana did a good job of taking care of the ball in the second half compared to that first half. But I mean, yeah, like you said, Shea had 38, but like the amount of players that just got steal after steal after steal.
Mhm.
Like Shea had 3 steals, Dort had 4, Caruso had 3, like 5 other players had 1 steal. There, like it was just ridiculous what OKC was doing. But Indiana, like, and something that I notice throughout the game is like, good as as many turnovers as OKC has forced. I don't believe they only had 10 fast break points off of 24 forced turnovers.
Mhm.
And also during pretty much that whole game, Indiana was never really down by more than like 12. Like they kept it relatively close. And on my channel, I said, especially after game one, but I said even before game one, that the thing that the Pacers really can beat the Thunder on, because if we're being honest, the Thunder don't have many weaknesses as a team. Um, but it's the 3 point shooting, the 3 point volume, 3 point shooting. I mean, you look at the top two on OKC and J Dub and Shea, they're not 3 point shooting guys. They're just not. They're mid range. They're attack the basket type of guys. And they just don't get up 3 point attempts like most of the league does. While Indiana, they have, I believe the broadcast said that they have three players shooting over 50% from three in the playoffs. I believe those players are Neesmith. I think it's Neesmith, Toppin, and Nemhard, or maybe Halliburton is one of them as well. But they kind of just did it by committee in game one. Like, honestly, Halliburton, like, yeah, he had the game winning shot, but he only had 14 points. He had 14, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Um, he just kind of did it obviously when it mattered the most with the shot. But I mean, Siakam had 19. I think that 19 is kind of fate. Like, if you look at the box score, you're like, oh, Pascal didn't have a bad game. He had a rough time dribbling in that first half. Like, I don't really think that was the greatest Siakam game from, a guy who just won Eastern Conference Final MVP. Nemhard, I think, did a great job on Shea in that first half of really not like, Shea was looking obviously for the contact. We know this. And Nemhard did a good job of, kind of stepping back, not letting Shea get the contact he wants. He had obviously that isolation possession over Shea that looked pretty nice, but they just really did it by committee. Toppin 17, Turner had 15, Neesmith had 10 and 12. Um, it's just a game that, I mean, you look at the numbers, and the only thing really that stands out is that the Pacers did better. Is they had 17 more rebounds as a team, and they shot 18 for 39 from three, while OKC shot 11 for 30, and OKC only had 6 turnovers.
Mm.
So that's a big game to win. I just hope that that isn't their NBA final victory right there, is them winning one game. I don't think that's how this team will look, because they've been in a bunch of tough series, whether you look at pretty much every series this year. And even last year when they played Boston in the conference final, they beat who did they beat in the second round? Was that New York that they beat last year in the second round, I think?
You talk about the Knicks, the Celtics
The Pacers
or the
last year,
Pacers. Yeah, was it?
I
Yeah, I think it
think,
was.
in six or whatever. So they've had a lot of uphill battles, but game one, I mean, it's so hard to point out the good things that OKC did in game one because they lost. It almost seems like those things just don't matter because you lost. And even though Indiana led for zero point 0.3 seconds of that entire game, the rest of the game it was either OKC or it was a tie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's why you play the whole 48. Um, Shea, I think, which has had the most points in the first two games of an NBA Finals career. He's had 72 points in his first two games. Um, I mean, I love how Shea's played this finals. I don't think you can blame any of this on Shea. But
Yeah, no, yeah.
go for it. Yeah, no, you're
No, no, I was just gonna agree with you. Yeah, no, I mean, go back to the turnovers as well too. I think the Thunder had 24 turnovers in game one. In game two, they had 10. It looks like they were gonna kind of have a repeat of their turnovers in the first game because J Dub looked like the second coming of Jalen Brown. Every time his dribble was left hand, he would lose the basketball. It's like, what are you doing? I think he had like 2 or 3 turnovers the first quarter himself.
Mhm.
They had the Thunder, they had to literally settle down. J Dub looked out of control. Hell, even Shea looked out of control as well too. I think he had one turnover, almost had another one. But you're not gonna get, speaking for the Thunder, you're not gonna get Caruso is not gonna give you 20 points consistently at night. Like he had a great game in game two. Same thing. Aaron Wiggins had 18 points in
Yeah.
21 minutes to play. So those two guys are not going to be consistent 20 points per game scores in this series.
Mhm.
J Dub again, even though he had 19, five of I believe he was at what 5 of 14 from the field, needs to be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah.
Chet Holmgren played a lot better in game two than he
Yeah.
did in game one. I think game one he had like 6 points. That's not going to get it done. And they won They lost by only 1 point. So if you have your three top stars in Shea and J Dub and Chet Holmgren, who are gonna at least consistently put up points and keep the turnovers low,
Hmm.
they're gonna win. Luke Dort again as well. He's not a scorer, but he's there for defensive presence.
Hmm.
We're gonna talk about Alex Caruso, always gonna get his hands as pass lane steals and
Hmm.
whatnot the case may be. Isaiah Hartenstein, I would have liked to seen his impact more felt, even though he had 8 rebounds and 4 assists. I would like to see his impact play more felt in that game. But again, he's there for defensive purposes to alter block shots. I would like to see them go to that two big lineup with Chet
Yeah.
and Isaiah, especially when the Pacers go with their two bigs, especially sometime they, bring in Thomas Brown, I believe his name is, and then they play Miles Turner. So they could definitely counteract with that, or maybe just go with that too, because Hardenstein is very fast. Chet Holmgren could space the floor too. So maybe on the offensive end, that might kind of, limit the paint. Shea doesn't have a room to operate because you know how Shea is aggressive, but definitely on the defensive end, there's no answer for the Pacers. But yeah, going back to what the Pacers, man. I mean, listen, the fact that they won game 1 and Halliburton 14 and 17, he definitely needs to be within that 20-25 points per game for them to have a chance. But they're just so well balanced offensively. I said they have the shooting guard of doom lineup because Mathurin, Neesmith, Nimhard, even
Yeah.
OP Toppin, when those guys are playing, they're clicking. If you look at game 1, they had a well balanced scoring from their main guys. Obviously, again, outside of Tyler Halliburton, I believe Pascal Siakam had like what 19 points. You're
Hmm.
looking at other key contributors for the Indiana Pacers, and Rick Carr likes to go well into his bench. Turner had 15, Nimhard had 14, Neesmith had 10, Toppin
Hmm.
had 17. Hell, if you could get Toppin to get you 15, well over
Yeah.
15, you're well within the ball game. So,
Yeah.
you
He
know,
did not do that in game 2
no,
whatsoever.
no, not at all, not at all. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what kind of chess moves Rick Carlisle is gonna play in game 2. Obviously, we all know the role players play better at home. They're in their crib, they're in their apartment. All they gotta do is just wake up out of bed, roll to the game. That's what it is. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the Thunder are going to stop the Pacers role players from playing well, especially too. Pacers knock down some threes at home. They are a good 3-point shooting team at home. So if they're able to defend
Yeah.
the perimeter, the Thunder have a chance to win. I'm still have the Thunder in 5. I might change
Yeah.
that to 6,
Yeah.
because I think the Pacers will take a game at home. But all in
Hmm.
all, man, you just saw some of the woes that the Thunder were playing. They fixed that in game 2. Mark Dale knows a hell of a coach. He's gonna have his team committed and focused. And one thing that I liked about Shea is that you never see him rattled. You never see him, a
Yeah.
little too high, a little too low, a little too low. He just stays even kill. Like after game 1, you probably thinking, oh, they sweating, oh, they lost an inferior team. He's like, no, we're good. We just gonna watch the film.
Yeah.
We're gonna do what we have to do, make
We were
adjustments. We'll be
that
right back.
close.
Yeah. He was just even kill, and that's what you need in your superstar player because they're gonna go as far as he goes. The mentality, the mindset, the attitude. It was just well to see him deliver that, especially to when he smiled when they were down 2-1 against Jokic and the
Yeah.
Nuggets, and he's like, "We're not worried." So it's like they've been here before. But yeah, I think this is definitely going to go the distance. And one thing I want to say this about Rick Carlisle too: the fact that he's able, he trusts his bench. He
Hmm.
goes deep into his bench. He was playing at least 10 players deep, well over 15 minutes a game. And we see why he was doing that because he was
Hmm.
getting his guys ready for this moment. When you got, Thomas Bryant coming in and playing 10, 15 minutes, he doesn't look rattled. He doesn't look scared. He doesn't look out of sorts. He was getting his guys ready. He's like, yo, we're going to be playing in big playoff games. So you get these guys playing high level amount of minutes. So when the moments count, they're well cohesed, they're well connected. It's a well-oiled machine. It's cohesionness, and like I said, the Indiana Pacers are a well-respected team that have shocked everybody. So I just always getting when they end up losing this series, they still had an incredible run.
Yeah. Something that some conversations that I think we're gonna get around Tyrese Halliburton are gonna be very similar conversations to how Jimmy Butler was talked about from 2020 to like 2023, 2024, where like if you're ranking players, it's like there's probably a good 12 to 15 players you would rather have than Jimmy Butler
Mm-hmm.
in the at least in the regular season. But then when you get to playoffs, he's one of those guys, so that kind of makes it hard for her to put him in a certain position or to say, I want whoever over him because obviously playoffs is where it matters the most. But like, and it's not that Halliburton doesn't perform in the regular season to how like Jimmy Butler was looked at, but um, Tyrese Halliburton sometimes doesn't score the way he want, the way that he should, as like Jimmy Butler did. But again, when you get to the playoffs, Tyrese does so many things well. He's a relatively big guard, I would say. Again, he had 10 rebounds in game one. In game two, he only had three, but and then obviously the playmaking, he's one of the best in the league. So I think that we're eventually going to get conversations like that with Tyrese because it's like there's probably a good at least 12 players that I could confidently say I want Tyrese Halliburton, that I would pick over Halliburton to start a team with. But then you get to playoffs and you've seen what Halliburton has done where he's 11 for 12 on go ahead shots in the playoffs in his career. It's like you can't ignore that. So that was off topic, but I'm just saying like that's kind of how it's kind of reminding me of things like that. But yeah, I think some of the things that you saw, like Obi Toppin 17 points, he only had three in this game, 1 for 8 shooting. Talking about game two. Um, Honestly, it was super well rounded for the Pacers too. They had one, two, three, four, five, six. They had 7 players score over 11 points for them. So they still got the well roundedness. But the thing that's one of the things with the Pacers is that they don't always have a definitive number one option. Like OKC, I would bet out of however many games Shea played in the regular season, there were maybe 3 games he wasn't the leading scorer on, in the regular season and probably the playoffs. But I mean, turnovers in the second game really weren't that different. The Pacers weren't really able to capitalize on the threes they both made the same amount as each other. And um OKC also had some of that cohesionness that the Pacers kind of thrive on, where this was the first in game two. OKC was the first team since the 2019 Raptors to have 5 or more players score 15 points. And you get that from Shea, from J Dub, Aaron Wiggins, and Alex Caruso might have had their most important games as an Oklahoma City Thunder in game two, having eight. Aaron Wiggins had 18 points in 21 minutes, and then Caruso had 20 points in 27 minutes, and then Chet's a player that obviously he's still super young. I think this is what since he was hurt his rookie year, this is technically only the second year he's played. I honestly Chet needs to take a scoring jump this next year. Because honestly, if you I would think that Chet would be the second guy. Obviously, that's J Dub because he made All Star, he made All Defensive and All NBA this year. But Chet's a player that like he could really take on, and he could be honestly a better version of Porzingis. He could be like they're the similar builds. They do similar things to where they're pretty good shot blockers to where they can average 2 blocks a game. They're not the best defender as a whole yet because they're thin. They're really tall players, but they're good shot blockers. They can obviously shoot very well, but yeah, I mean, game one, he start like the first couple possessions of the game he was like looking for his own shot, and then he ends the game with 6. And I was surprised that he ended the game with 6. Game two was better, but 11 of those 15 points came in the first half. So I really want to see Chet take a scoring jump, honestly, starting in game three. But if it doesn't come, they don't necessarily need it to win. I mean, we still have OKC favored to win this series pretty convincingly, but I think a part of, as the league gets better and gets adapted to OKC, who's going to be around for a long time because they're young and they're not expensive yet. Chet needs to develop to where he can be like a solidified all star or at least a all star snub. And I think he would have been one this year, but you can't have games where you're scoring 4 points as a starting center.
Yeah.
It's just going to be hard to do. And when you talked about Hartenstein earlier, we saw the first major switch of this series happened before the first game even started. Case and Wallace started over Isaiah Hartenstein, so they didn't opt to start the double big lineup. I believe that was the same in game two. I don't remember, but Hartenstein was super good off the bench in game one. He was fine in game two, but he wasn't as impactful. But in game two, I there were at least three times that I saw Hartenstein just dropping in the paint when Miles Turner had a wide open three. Now Miles Turner only made one of those threes, but the fact that OKC still is fine with leaving average to above average 3-point shooters open is, I mean, it's something that's worked. They were one of the best teams of all time, and it's something different because normally teams want to take away the three-pointer, but I mean, Miles Turner is a good player. I don't. I mean, he's been pushed around in trade talks for it seems like 6 years, but he's one of those players that when he has a good game as well as a Halliburton or Siakam game, you're not going to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, I do think that this finals has been very interesting. If I don't know how some people will look at this and say it's this boring finals nobody wants to watch. I mean, I understand that maybe it's not the sexiest names right now, but you've got the MVP of the league and you've got Tyrese Halliburton, who is one of the best guards in the league at this point. He's one of the best playmakers, but we're getting new names in the NBA finals and I think that's something that the league wants. So I don't know how people can say that they are just this is an awful NBA finals. There's no point in watching because we're sitting at the NBA finals 1-1, and even some people still have an idea of who will win. But okay, I mean Indiana's won a game versus every good team that they've had, and I put out this question on my channel saying if the Pacers somehow win this series, is this the second hardest finals path that any team's ever had behind the 2011 Dirk and Mavericks? Because they went through Giannis and the Bucks, they went through the 64 win Cavs, best team in the East. It would have been maybe better if they also went against the 60 plus win Celtics in the conference finals, but they still went against the Knicks, who beat the Celtics and gave them a challenge. And now they're going against an almost 70 win team and the MVP of the league.
Yeah, I
There's just,
think yeah.
it's just, there's not storylines. And I guess that's what people like. But when you get these new series, you're making new storylines that you can hope to look for in the future. But yeah.
That's honestly a good question to ask because I think like if the Pacers were able to win, you could probably put that in terms of the hardest
Hmm.
one ring, definitely below Dirk because we know how what the juggernaut Dirk had to go through with the big three Miami in the finals, and then you had Kobe Paul, and you had the big three. I believe that they beat the San Antonio Spurs or something like
Yeah, I
that.
think so.
Yeah, so you every single round that he faced, he at least faced two future Hall of Famers, and you can say the same thing with Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, first round Dave didn't play, but Giannis is a for sure bound Hall of Fame player. Second round, if Donovan Mitchell keeps playing a little bit more, and he could obviously potentially be in the Hall of Fame. And then, the third round, Jalen Brunson's on his way to Hall of Fame projected career. Same thing with Cat. And if he doesn't end up being Shea, he beat this year's league MVP. Another, a little too early to tell, but on his way to have a Hall of Fame trajectory career. So I would definitely put it up there. But I wanted to go back to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The one thing, again, obviously, this team is very, very young. There's one thing that I want the Thunder to see. I need to see them have that killer mentality because if you're about to be crowned an NBA champion, you're 3 wins away. You have to keep your foot on the gas pedal and literally kick them while they're down. They went on a 35-7 run, and then their like 20-point lead all of a sudden went down to 11. And again, a team against a team that is known for coming back, you cannot give them an inch of momentum, or else they will take a total advantage of that, like they did in game one. You know what I mean? Like they let a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter go away like that. So when you're up on this team, they gotta have that killer mentality. The Nuggets had it with Jokic when they won. The Miami Heat with the big three with Wade, Bosh, LeBron had it when they went up. The Paul Gasol and Kobe Bryant Lakers, they had it. You know what I mean? The San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker, and Kawhi Leonard, they had it. So when you're up, you cannot let this team come back. Like we understand basketball is a game of runs, but especially we've seen this team do so much damage when it's the fourth quarter and it's under 5 minutes to go. And you're up on this team. I wouldn't even say 5 minutes. If it's like 2 minutes to go and you're up 10 points on this team, the game is far from over. So they're gonna have to learn to put them out. Can't play around. Don't play around with your food. So that's the only thing I'm seeing from the Thunder. Again, they're young. They're still learning. But if you're about to be champions, that's something that you have to have installed for you to go for that killer shot and don't be afraid to pull the trigger. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. People complaining, oh, this is the sexiest finals. How do you think new stars are born?
Right.
Like there was a league before LeBron James was in the finals. There was a league before Michael Jordan was in the finals. There was a league before Kevin Durant was in the finals. Steph was in the finals, and there's going to be a league without them. Steph, KD, LeBron, Kawhi, James Harden, Kyrie. Those guys are not going to play forever. So it's like the WWE, as I mentioned, it's all about creating new stars. This is a young man's game. So people say, well, you're complaining about this year's MVP in the finals against a guy who has shown that he's arguably a top 10 player in this league and proved his value times 10 in the postseason where it matters the most. And like I said, NBA fans are always going to find a way to bitch, moan, and complain about something because they have nothing better to do with their lives. But I think for true basketball fans who just love the game of basketball, this is what you want to watch. And you never know. Maybe these teams could meet each other again next year.
Right.
And we could have a repeat because the Pacers ain't going nowhere. Thunder ain't going nowhere. Obviously, now, again, other moving parts around the Eastern Conference and Western Conference teams. But these teams are going to be around for the next 5, 6 years. They're young. They have depth. They have salary cap flexibility. They have two great, executives who are not afraid to make moves. And I just read a report not too long ago that the Pacers, higher brass are not afraid to go now not afraid to go into the luxury tax because they were surprised at this team's playoff success, especially with the small market team. They're looking to cut corners. But I know, like we have all the personnel, we have the coach, we have the players, we have the superstar to continue to make runs, deep runs in the postseason, and possibly run for a championship. So I'm all for it. And I think I saw, I believe it was one live app. It's what NBA Central posted that I think it only had 10,000 less viewers than the
And the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, yeah.
So that means people are watching.
Right, exactly.
So
And I don't know why fans care about ratings. I
yeah,
just don't. It doesn't. You're not getting paid by them. Why do you care about ratings if the product is bad or not? Are you enjoying it or not?
exactly.
But yeah,
Exactly.
when going back, I mean, I posted a YouTube short talking saying, what this finals would rank, in hardest and someone said without giving it too much thought, the only two that come to mind, the 2011 Mavs who went through Kobe in the Lakers, Russ Harden and Durant in the OKC, and then LeBron's, super team in Miami, and then the six-seeded Houston Rockets in 94, 95.
Oh yeah, they went through a gauntlet too.
Um, but and then also you brought up a good point saying, um, I gotta find it. I A few other things I put is if the Pacers weren't playing OKC and it was any other team from the West, are they favorited to win?
If the Pacers weren't playing any other team in the West besides OKC, are they favored to win? Ooh,
I think the only team that I have trouble saying is Minnesota, who was also in the conference final.
I think they probably would have beat Minnesota.
Right. Like I
Yeah,
obviously it would be closer, but
yeah, it'll be
a lot of
even.
didn't people didn't really agree with that. And then I also said, which you brought up briefly, was the Pacers gonna be back in the at least Eastern Conference final to next year? Because you got to think, who knows what the hell is happening with the Sixers and Joel Embiid and if he's gonna play, how they'll look. Um, the Bucks with how they treat this Giannis situation, Dame's out for a long time. The Celtics don't have Tatum for pretty much all of next year. The Cavs might be open to trading Garland and Jared Allen. I've seen you just posted earlier. Garland's out for 5 months or whatever with a broken toe. Um, like, is there a real world where they are back here?
I can see that because yeah, I mean you made up some good points. We'll talk about the Bucks. We know they're probably not going to go anywhere. There's been reports about maybe Giannis going to stay with them, so they're going
Right.
to be a playoff team, but they're not going to be a championship contending team, especially without Dame. Celtics, they're going to have a gap year with Tatum recovering from his Achilles, so that's another team. Sixers, I expect the Sixers to be maybe back in playoff contention, but I don't expect them to
What,
make
like
a
a
deep run.
first round exit, probably?
Yeah, maybe a first round exit
Right.
again. If the Cavs, trade Garland, they upgrade him for maybe like a Tyrese Halliburton, then maybe so. But it's been back to back years of the Cavs being a high, team in the Eastern Conference. They didn't completely choke. So they're
Yeah.
great in the regular season, but awful in the postseason. So I, the Pacers, if we're looking at it, I mean, yeah, why not? Now, again, interesting to see what the Knicks are going to do. New head coach. Maybe do they trade Cat for KD?
Yeah.
I don't think there's not going to be a lot of names out there for him, but I would be a safe bet to say that the Pacers would be right back in the NBA Finals contention. I don't see why not. Now,
Yeah.
if Giannis was still on the move, then Mills like hold him now, because if Giannis goes to the Knicks or any other team, now he's a seismic shift. But if he's staying put, uh,
Yeah.
what's stopping him? What's
Yeah.
stopping him? So I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man, I can't believe the Pacers out of the whole team. Oh, before we go away, what pisses me off? So obviously, like I play some bets on FanDuel and I win some, lose some.
Mhm.
There is somebody out there. I don't know if they posted it, but how like you could post, you could put a bet on a team that you expect to face each other in the finals.
Mhm.
I bet you nobody in their right mind, besides one person living in Indianapolis, had the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Pacers in the finals. And I bet you the odds in that were like plus 15,000. And if you bet
Yeah.
like $10, you're gonna win like 150 grand. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But NBA script writers, man, they think that they think it's gonna go this way. No, it's gonna go another way.
Yeah.
You gotta keep them swerving. You know
Yeah.
what I
I'd
mean?
like to see what people are putting for next year's finals, because that, I mean, we had an idea for the I think the last two, like this year and last year, who were going to be in the finals out east. I mean, obviously this is before the draft and free agency and trades and all that in the off
Mm,
season, but
yeah,
I couldn't tell you who will be here next year
yeah, and
with all the
especially
injuries.
with the West too. The West is even more of a question mark than the East because
Yeah.
we expect the Mavericks to be back in the hunch after the NBA rigged the draft for them. Kyrie's gonna come back healthy. AD's gonna come back healthy. What's gonna happen with KD? He's gonna get traded from the Suns. Does he go to the Spurs? Like
Yeah.
Spurs, we expect them to be in playoff consideration, especially with Wemby gonna be back. Fox, Castle's gonna make that second year leap. What are the Memphis Grizzlies gonna do? I don't expect them to stay packed. The Lakers gonna look to improve with Luka, LeBron.
Hmm.
What I mean? Ant-Man and the Timberwolves, they ain't going anywhere. Expect them to make some upgrades in the offseason. OKC ain't going anywhere. Expect them to make, minor tweaks here and there. So the West is even a bigger question mark than the East, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
my guys. All right, guys. That's it for this episode of Hoops All In. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In. Follow, like, and comment. Share this video out to everybody that you know. Also, listen to the audio version on the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, or wherever you stream your daily or weekly podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to Keith's personal YouTube channel at Keith HAI. For World's Francois, Keith Bazin signing off. We'll catch you guys next time on another episode of Hoops All In.